Okay, so there has been a lot of talk in recent years about aging in place. So who out there has heard the term aging in place? All right, so I got a pretty smart audience. That's no surprise. So just in a nutshell, aging in place is this idea that you can continue to live wherever you're living, typically the family home, for as long as you want to stay there, and often, basically, until the end of your life. This is what most people perceive as the most budget-friendly option. They look at it as it provides comfort, it provides safety, it provides community. If you ask, there's about 77% of those of us that are 50 and over who will say that I'm planning on aging in place. So this is really, can be a great option. And most certainly, all those statements of what it provides, I agree with many of them. And you'll often see statistics as big as 90% of people that would desire to age in place. But I'm looking out into an audience, and all of you are unique. You all have your own circumstances, your own support systems. You all have unique homes. And so the key to success in this area is really just the same as the key to other big decisions in our lives. There is no one right answer. There is no cookie cutter solution for anyone. It's so important to look at the very particular aspects of your life and your situation before making the decision that is right for you. So when I do solo presentations on this topic of aging in place, there are 4 key areas that I emphasize. One is your home. One is your health and your mobility, your support system, and finally, your desires. At the end of the day, what really brings you joy? You also may perceive that the idea of living at home is going to be the most budget-friendly option, and this idea of, I could never afford one of those expensive communities. But is that really the truth? So if we want to evaluate, to truly set ourselves up for success in this area, we need to evaluate all of these things in our lives and make the decisions based on facts. So if our home is not currently ready to age in place, is it possible to adapt it? If so, what would be the realistic cost of that? If you have loved living in the community of a neighborhood for many years, but all of your closest friends have moved, are you still getting the same benefit for living in that neighborhood? If you were to need assistance on short notice, do you have a friend or family member who could be at your side within minutes? Or are you calling 911? That's a really, really important thing to think about. So we're going to do a deep dive into these topics, and I know that our amazing panelists here are just going to do a great job in giving you the information so that you can help make this decision for yourself. So let's go ahead and get ready to get smarter, shall we? And I'm going to start with having each of them introduce themselves, and then we'll move into the questions. So starting with Dave.
Sorry, my name is Dave Czarnecki, and I'm the owner-operator of Safe Home Michigan.
I'm Casey Dietz. I'm an occupational therapist, and I own Home Safe Home.
Good morning. My name is Lindsay Mohr. I'm with Reliance Community Care Partners, and I'm a community liaison.
Great, thank you all. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Dave. So Dave, you have been around houses and real estate for quite a while. So let's start by talking about your background and why you were drawn to the idea of helping older adults to safely age in place in their own homes.
Well, thank you, Laura, first of all, for having me. And yes, I was a home inspector for 13 years in the Grand Rapids and West Michigan area. I owned and operated a company, and that company basically inspected homes for folks moving into and out of the homes for real estate purposes. And after the 13 years, I wanted to do something a little bit different, so I jumped over the fence and I became a licensed realtor. So as I was a realtor, though, there's designations that you can get as a realtor. One of them is called a Seniors Real Estate Specialist designation. And with me at my age, at the time, I was 64, going to be a realtor. I was looking at trying to compete with the larger number of realtors in the area and using monies from my retirement to fund my real estate endeavor. I found that I needed to focus on some group right away, and it was the folks that are 65 and older. And so in studying that and doing the study to get my designation, I found that a lot of what was talked about was things that I experienced in my own life with taking care of my own dad for 14 years after my mom passed away, and also taking care of my in-laws for my wife. So I started to realize that I really loved inspecting homes, and I really like working with older folks, senior citizens. So I started Googling inspecting for senior citizens and things of this nature. And it led me to a company called Age Safe America, which then I followed through with that. And they have a program for certification as a home safety advisor. So I talked to the owner of the company. He said I'd be great in this because I already know inspecting homes. I already know how to talk with folks about homes. I just need to know a little bit about what should be done with keeping someone in their home. So I took the certification and I just recertified myself. So yes, that's kind of what led me to do this, is that, you know, I want to help folks who want to stay in their home, just like it was for my dad. Trying to get him into Pilgrim Manor at the time was like pulling teeth. So yes.
That's kind of the unique thing about real estate. We can only help somebody sell a home if they desire to sell a home, right? So that's really what our focus has been all about, is this idea of, sure, I'll help somebody sell a home when they desire to, but at the end of the day, we're first looking at how to help you plan to do whatever it is that you desire to do, which is really the most important focus. So in my introduction, I alluded to the statistics that about 77% of adults 50 and over say that they would like to remain in their homes. Now, I've actually seen statistics as high as 90%. Now, Dave, what can you tell us about the percentage of people who have actually prepared their homes to be ready to stay there indefinitely? Is there a disconnect between those who say they want to stay and those who actually have homes that would be effective for them to age in place?
Sure. The other half to the statement of the statistic as high as 90% is that of the 90%, 85% have done nothing or know of how to make their home to age in place. So that's, what, 5% difference? And there is a disconnect because with somebody like me coming and talking to you, I can show you a way of how you can stay in your home safer with very little cost at all. So it isn't that you have to, you know, start knocking your home apart or start adding rooms on. You can stay in your home because homes that are built were never built for the intent for someone to stay in it indefinitely. So you've got your older homes and things of modifications that can be done to that. But that's where I come in. I can come in with a free consultation to sit and talk with you, explain what I do, take a look around your home, point out some things, and show you what I do as far as the evaluation.
Yeah, because honestly, in the real estate world, we've really seen a difference in how homes have been built over the years as well. And so differences in how, you know, where the laundry is and whether the bedrooms are upstairs? Do you have a main floor bath? All these things can definitely make a huge difference as you age and you start to grow older and really look at the fact that, gosh, I've been taking these stairs for 30, 40 years and it was never a problem until I just had a knee replaced. So as our bodies age, there's certain things that were once part of our daily routine that can now pose a challenge. So Dave, what are some of the biggest threats to people being able to safely remain in their home?
The biggest threat, among others, the biggest threat to someone wanting to remain safe and stay independent in their own home is falling. It's as simple as that. If someone falls, they risk the chance of breaking a hip, an ankle, a leg, and what happens after that then is, I've got some psychological results here, I'll just read the headline. Decreased independence, now you're afraid. You've fallen, I don't know if I want to go back outside, or I don't know if I want to do things because I just fell. Social isolation, now because I don't want to go outside, I'm going to start staying inside. Well, how many people are going to be coming and visiting you every day or maintain that socialness that you had? Low self-esteem. Geez, I've fallen, what good am I now? I can't go see my kids. Reduced quality of life. So falling is the greatest threat. And that's where I come in to help show you to prevent that as much as I humanly possibly can. Of course, you on your end, as far as maintaining any medications you have, visiting your doctors anytime that you need to, glasses, anything that keeps you going is what you need to do. What I will do is show you what I can make your home safer.
I can certainly attest to the mental changes once you've gone through something. I took a very bad fall on the ice about 4 years ago and cracked my ankle and surgery and screws and plates and all that good stuff. It has completely changed when I am walking in winter. I mean, it really, really, I've never had a lot of fear, and I now have some, maybe well-seated, maybe not, but I definitely now think about it every time I'm taking a step when it's outside and it's icy. And so I think that sometimes until we've had an experience like that, it's really easy to just continue to go through the motions of what we've done for years and feel that it'll be just fine until you've had something happen, and then all of a sudden it's on your radar. So hopefully with people like Dave, these things can be on our radar before they happen and do it proactively. So in terms of meeting people in their homes and helping them determine the areas that could be safely improved for them to age in place, take us through what a typical inspection might look like.
Well, first of all, what it does is it starts off with a free consultation. It starts off with, hey, Dave, can you come over, take a look at my house and stuff? So I come over and I sit and talk with you and just go over things you may need. It's what you want. It isn't that I come in and here's my safety evaluation, take it or leave it. It's what you tell me you want, and that's what then I look at. And if you want the full safety evaluation, it's a 260 plus point evaluation of areas on the outside of your house, on the inside of your house. And I also bring into some of the aspects that I did as a home inspector, where I'll evaluate your furnace and your air conditioning, your water heater, your main electrical panel. I'm going to bring an example here to light that I'm sure everyone here heard about. Last year at this time in Alpine Township, there was an elderly couple in their 80s that were living in their home, and their son, who was, I believe, 62, 63 years old, was living with them. And the rest of the family members, some of them came to the house and just was asking, hey, well, you guys coming over, or should we come over for Christmas and such? And when the family members came to the home, they found all three of them passed away. And they were passed away in Alpine Township. The authorities determined that it was a leaky vent pipe from their boiler, their heating system in their home. And it was leaking carbon monoxide into the home, you know. And that's one of the aspects that I look at as an evaluator when I'm looking at furnace and water heater is it safe? What are the ages of your units? There's life expectancies and things break down and stuff. So my evaluation, what I look at, lighting, clearing of pathways in the home, is it safe for you to get to exits, okay? Things of this nature. But again, I bring that to light and I can tell you, and all it is, the evaluation is just a heads up. You know, hey, this is what your home is right now. This is what could happen. These are the ages. You want to go forward with it, fine. If not, you don't have to, but this is what it is.
I think as we live in our homes, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but if any of you have something that you have been stepping over for the last 6 months or whatever it is, so, you know, we had a daughter get married, we had a son graduate this year. I finally took care of some of those, you know, various little piles that were in our living room when I brought out the Christmas stuff. I hope I'm not the only one in this room that does things like that. Because we forget when we're in our homes and we've looked at something every day, you stop seeing some of the things that are there. And I think that bringing an additional set of eyes into our homes to just help point something out can be really, really critical in helping you see things that you may have honestly just forgotten were there. So in terms of what type of feedback or report, so you talked about your however many point report that they can expect to, and then in addition to just recommendations, are you able to provide concrete resources for them to then move forward with the things that you recommend?
When I do my evaluation report, I give recommendations on what I would perceive that should be done. My report includes photographs of what I took that are of concerned areas that you should look at and be concerned about and why. As far as resources, I do. I'm a board member for the Council on Aging for Kent County, and I also am with the Advocates for Senior Issues and other organizations. And so with the resources that I have through those affiliations, plus business organizations that I belong to, I know the people that I'm going to send to your home. And when I send them to your home, I meet them at your home. So it isn't that, Jim, you're the electrician, this is Tom and Mary that I talked to you about. This is what they need to have done. Let's go see. That way, there's no miscommunication because I'm not there, so you've got to try to explain to the electrician. Or your kids need to take time off from work to come and take a look at what's going to be done. I'm there. I do that. So, and services like what you'll hear from Casey next to me here, that's who I tap in with. So, like I say, it's the resources that I work with. I know, I've talked with them, I've had coffee with them, and I feel very comfortable with referring them to you.
I feel like that makes all the difference in the world that most of the people that I work alongside, myself included, instead of just sending you a list of resources via email, we really try and do that personal connection and stay involved with the results, which makes all of the difference. So Dave, how about any personal stories about recent clients that you have helped remain in their home?
The most recent one I can think of, and I don't know if anyone has seen the posting on Facebook, but from Fox 17 News, there was a gentleman that was recently discharged from Mary Free Bed Hospital, and I was able to be part of the immediate needs safety evaluation that Mary Free Bed asked of. He's, I believe, 42 years old. He was doing some audiovisual work up in a church attic for their speakers and such, and the floor gave way under him. So he fell 25 feet to the floor. He did not sustain any neurological injuries of that manner, but of course, some broken bones and things of this nature. So he was at Mary Free Bed, and he's about 6'2". So went to his home in Hamilton, and his wife made it clear that they want to stay in the home. They're not moving. His older daughter, who's 14, she has spina bifida. So the house was already kind of set up for her with a ramp to get in, but with him being 6'2", it wasn't at all for him, and the house was built in the 70s. So we did the evaluation, me and another company that was going to do some modifications. We did the evaluation and were able to get him into his home by doing, is basically a hospital bed was going to be in the living room, but getting to a bathroom, getting in through the front door with a wheelchair and such. So we achieved that. And the next step that's going on now is they're going to be modifying the entire home. So hopefully, it's going to look that they're not going to be able to have to move because they wanted to keep their kids in the Hamilton School District. But yeah, I think that's the one that really sticks out in my mind was, being able to get him into his home and getting him back with his family, and it's before the holidays, so.
Yeah, it's incredible when you look at, entrance and egress from a home from a standpoint of somebody who is in a wheelchair or a walker. I mean, even something as small as a couple steps, if you are in a wheelchair and truly do not have any mobility, it's a game changer. So we really have to look at these things and the inside of our homes of all the different aspects that could be affected if something were to change your mobility. So Dave, lastly, I know everything in your business puts a huge emphasis on prevention and being proactive versus reactive. So what have I missed? What would you like to add in this regard of how people can work to be proactive in this nature?
I'm sure you've all seen and heard of the commercial on TV where the late Alex Trebek was the speaker, and now there's another gentleman there, but they asked for, what are the 3 Ps of life insurance? And the 3 Ps are price, price, and price. Well, my 3 Ps are proactive, proactive, proactive. The sooner you have a plan, like when you build a home, you go on a trip, whatever you're doing that's going to involve a lot of time, you want to have a plan. You think about what's going to happen. The National Aging in Place Council puts out your plan for aging in place, and it highlights the 5 pillars for aging in place, okay? And that's housing, health and wellness, personal finance, transportation, and social interaction, being able to get out and do things, okay? And that plan asks some questions of you that addresses each of those steps. And it gets you thinking. But, you got to think ahead and be proactive rather than reactive, because then again, something happens to you when you least expect it. You're upset. Now I've got to find somebody right now to fix it. Whereas if I would have known about this, my furnace is 25 years old, should start thinking about it. Let's call a few people. Well, when it's reactive, you don't have that. You better get somebody over there right now so you don't know how much you're going to spend. And it's just the whole stress. You don't need it. You just don't need it if you know ahead of time.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I have officially turned into my mother in certain aspects, so I'm sure you've all heard that before. All right, great. Dave, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to Lindsay.
Thank you.
So Lindsay, or actually, you know what? I'm sorry, I messed up. We're going to actually move on to Casey. All right, so Casey, welcome. Well, you and Dave share some of the same similarities between your businesses. They're truly not the same, and you actually come from a completely different background than he does. So tell us a little bit about your background and why you and your husband chose to start your business.
Thanks, Laura. So I am an occupational therapist. I'm just going to take this off. Okay. I'm an occupational therapist. I've been a therapist for 15 years, and throughout my career, I've just made all these recommendations for people. You have a hip a hip replacement, a brain injury, a spinal cord injury, and I'm like, you need a ramp, you need some grab bars, you need, all these things, and then people just stare at me and they're like, who's gonna do that? And I'm like, I'm not sure. I hope your son's helpful. So forever it's just been like, these are my professional recommendations. And back in the day, our hospital would even send us to do home assessments for people that were in the hospital. Well, things have changed financially with hospitals. They won't send therapists as often. So during COVID, I was sending all of these people that couldn't even get in their front door to nursing homes that could have gone home if they had a ramp or if their doors were a little bit wider. So it was super devastating to these people who couldn't have visitors, who were in a lockdown unit during COVID-19 that like, oh, you can no longer access your home, you have a broken hip, and now you have to sit in a nursing home until you can walk. So one day I was talking to my husband, who is a licensed builder, and I was like, wait, why don't we do this together? Like, stop building regular homes. Like, I think this is a real opportunity for us to join forces. So COVID kind of, like, if there's a positive, kind of spurred our company of, like, I think we can really touch people's lives and prevent falls, and then also allow people to heal within their home.
Yep. I think that's great. Have any of you been in that situation where you get recommendations from your doctor or somebody like Casey, where like, yeah, just do these things. And you're like, okay, how? No. That is so entirely true that there's a lot of that out there. So is there a typical type of client that you work with? So if so, what might that look like?
I think it ranges from people with physical disabilities, new injuries, or even new diagnoses of neurological disorders. Those are our quick, like, we need to get in the front door today situations. We do a lot of work with Area Agency on Aging, so it'll be more of like the lower income, hey, we need you to come out and make these assessments, recommendations, and do the work for the Area Agency. But honestly, it's a lot of the slow build of like, hey, my mom's fallen, how about a grab bar? So then we go in there and I start talking to them and see how their mom is moving, and I'm like, is that all you really need? Like, let's talk about really how things are going. And they're like, wow, so usually with the aging population, it starts with something small, and then people say, wow, it's way easier to get into my tub with a single grab bar. Let's talk about other ways to like save some energy, reduce falls. Like Dave said, like falls are a slippery slope. So it's really the full gamut of population that we work with.
So what would an initial consultation with you look like?
So if you want like a home, like if you want me as a therapist to come in and make all the recommendations, similar to Dave, I start from the outside of, okay, you have 3 steps to enter. Let's talk about getting in from the garage where you have a covered entry. Can we talk about a ramp or a vertical platform lift? So it's really like, here are my A to Z recommendations. I print it out for you, I give it to you, and I say, if your son is helpful, he can do all of this work, or you can call another builder, contractor, or our company also does all of this work. And so if our company does the work, then the recommendations are all included in the cost of the construction.
Great. So I love that you offer a full service experience with your husband being a licensed builder. And how about some of the most interesting clients or cases that you might have worked with?
So often I always say I'm function and he's structure, because I'll go in and be like, well, functionally we need to move this wall, and then he'll come in after me and be like, that is supporting the entire house, so we cannot move that wall. So it's better when we go in together, because I am like, well, really with this wheelchair they need a 5x5 turning radius, so I honestly feel like we team up really well, and we see the world in totally different ways. And so I would say one of the most fun ones that we recently worked on was this family was adopting 2 kiddos from China that both had physical disabilities. So their home was not purchased for any physical disability at all. So it was really great getting to know the family, and all of the work was done before the kiddos came, and they invited us over for dinner after the kiddos came. And so like we got to see, they used a vertical platform lift in their home to get to the 2nd story, and they were able to go outside to the backyard and play with the other siblings, and like all of this work and thought of these kids. And then we finally got to see them using all the things that we had, the roll-in shower, so they could literally roll in a shower chair, take a shower. I mean, one of the boys was 10, so he doesn't want to be like carried naked into onto a shower chair. So he could like roll his little cute shower chair into the barrier-free shower, take a shower, and roll back out. So that was pretty incredible, and I feel like it was our whole family went over for dinner. So my kiddos got to meet these kiddos. Like, it was just a really awesome experience to be a part of that.
That's cool. I feel like so many of us who work with these families, I mean, it's more than just a business transaction. It really is. We get to know intimate details of how people live in their homes, and it's just different. Now, one of the things that your company is certified to install is chair lifts, and it's kind of ironic because I have actually 2 listings coming up that both have chair lifts. And so this could be a significant thing because one of the main reasons that people do choose to move is if they can't somehow work out for main floor living, their bedrooms are all in the upper level. So what should people know about considering this as an option? And what are the most successful candidates? And then also people that, this may not work for them. And I'd love for you to also talk a little bit about that vertical lift. I know that wasn't on our questions, but I have a client that might want one of those, so I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, so first of all, stair chairs, chair lifts, they're actually more cost effective than you would imagine. I always thought when I'd recommend them, like, these are probably like $20,000. They're really under $5,000. In our company, and there's other companies that do rentals for them, so you could do like, oh, I have a hip replacement, I need it for a while, come install it, and then come take it back. We don't want it long term. So that's happened a lot where it's been a rental, then people are like, well, actually it's easier not to do the stairs, so we're gonna keep it, and then it turns into a purchase. But the easiest, straightest, most cost effective is just a straight up and down. You get on the bottom, you land straight up there, and then you get off. So ideally you have good trunk control, you can sit upright, you can hold your balance. Those are necessary to sit on a stair chair. We have done stair chairs where they have you go up, you have a platform, you turn, and then if you can do 2 separate, like off the shelf stair chairs, that's cheaper, but that involves you standing on a platform from one chair to another. There are options of custom, like where they make the turn for you, and those are obviously a lot more expensive because they're custom made. We do like a 3D program to send to the company, so then they bend this metal to get the stair chair to do whatever curve you have. So there's a lot of options. I would say this is not a possibility. It's sometimes, well, this is really expensive because I have a spiral staircase and that's not going to work. But
that could be kind of fun.
Challenge accepted. So yeah, I would say that they are more reasonable, and especially if you could do a rental program, there are companies that do that. The vertical platform lift, it can go from like the base of the garage up, I think it goes 10 feet in Michigan without needing an elevator permit. There are some laws on that. My husband's gonna be mad I don't remember that. Again, I refer to him on those kind of things. So the nice thing about the vertical platform lift is you guys have all seen it in your garage where if you have 3 or 4 steps, it could take up like a 20-foot space of your garage, and then suddenly you can't park in there. Now you're shoveling your car off the driveway, So the vertical platform lift, you just go into it, you stand there or you sit, either way, and you have a little remote, it brings you up, and then you roll or walk off into your home. These are also more reasonable. I think the last one we installed was about $4,500, and there are companies that also rent those, so if it's more of a short-term thing. So yeah, I think really every time we've installed one, people will tell me, my grandkids love this. So it's really like age appropriate for anyone. You could be a small child to a older person and really enjoy the stair chair.
Got it. And are they pretty easy to then disassemble and take out if someone is ending up moving and selling the home?
Yeah, that is one thing we always tell people. If you're going to sell, we will buy it back as long as it's in good condition. But it's really just you take out the wiring and you pull off the track from the stairway. And then my husband will always patch the holes if we're removing it. So it's more cumbersome because if it's a straight long track, it's kind of awkward to remove. But most people could figure that out.
Gotcha. Good to know. All right, so when I think of home safety modifications, we usually think of these obvious things that we've already talked about, like grab bars and ramps, but your website really talks a lot about environmental controls as well. So talk a little bit about the best tech options and how they can help enhance people's lives and their environment.
Yeah, so assistive technology has come a long way. I currently still help out at a hospital, and I do the assistive technology within the hospital, so it's incredible to always be learning about how things are changing. Even the Apple Watch will tell you if you've fallen, you can program it to call your kids, call 911. Without even responding to the Apple Watch, it will feel that you have fallen quickly and abruptly, and it'll make these phone calls. So like technology is just so incredible. One of the ones that we use a lot is the Alexa app. You can program it to call 911. I always educate people on how many things it can control in your home. It can control lights. It can control locks on your doors. It can control your shower. You can lay in bed and tell it to turn on the shower to 100 degrees, and it will. Like, there's incredible ways that Alexa can really enhance your life and reduce the fact that you have to get up and walk across the room to hit a light switch, or you're going to bed, you're falling asleep on the couch, have Alexa turn off your lights instead of trying to manage that in the middle of the night. A lot of times I'll recommend a night light that's voice controlled, so then before you get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, you turn on that night light with your voice control, so you're not trying to wander in the night in the dark. There's also a cool option for people in wheelchairs. It's called Auto Slide, and we're an installer for this company. But you can either have a remote or through a power wheelchair, you can have Bluetooth access it, and it'll open sliding glass doors, garage doors, and front doors. So this really reduces the need for 24-hour caregivers for people. Like, think of somebody in a wheelchair. Well, if they can't get out the front door because they can't unlock it and open it, they're going to need 24-hour care if there's a fire, So just thinking of ways to use technology and just really educating people of like, hey, instead of having a caregiver for 8 hours because X, Y, and Z, let's talk about ways that we can use technology to help make that happen.
I think that's incredible, and I know that we've used Alexa around our house just for some of the basic things, and it just helps me wake up every morning. I just lay there, I'm like, Alexa, turn on the bedroom light. Alexa, play this radio station. And it allows me just to lay there a few more minutes, and it does make a difference. It's really, really convenient once you get used to using it. So
Can I interject one more thing?
Yeah.
There's another awesome thing with the Alexa. You can get one with a screen, and you can actually drop in, which my mother-in-law loves that we do this. But we just drop into her screen in Arizona on her kitchen, so we can say, hey, how are you feeling? Come see us, because she's so far away. So if you guys want your kids to just drop in on the screen, or you want to drop in on a family member, it is a really nice way to have eyes on somebody, and she can also have her Alexa call us if there's any issues. So like, it makes that distance feel less far when you can drop in and be like, hey, how you feeling? And make sure she is okay and still moving okay.
that's awesome. And your company can actually assist with getting those parts set up as well?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we do all that.
That's awesome. So what have I missed, and what is anything else that you'd like to add in terms of helping people safely age in place?
I honestly feel like the sooner you do it, the better, like what Dave was saying. There's no downside. I think a lot of times people think grab bars, hospital, sterile, a downhill slide, but I think it's less of a downhill slide when we're preventing. Also, the style has changed so much in people's homes. Like now the wet room style for bathrooms is like the goal. So like I have friends building beautiful homes in their 30s that are building these zero entry showers with like the tub, and it's all tiled. It's a wet room style. And that's what I've been recommending for years for people is like have the toilet and the roll-in shower all in like a wet room style. So then you can, if you're in a shower chair, you can roll from the shower to the toilet, so really it's a beautiful way to be safe, prevent falls, and stay happily in your home. It doesn't have to be a sterile, terrible looking situation.
If I could add something.
Oh, you bet.
Like what Casey was saying about, making it look nice and not being a sterile, environment like a hospital, it can be made so that, it adds to the resale value of your home. As a realtor, that's what I take into account whenever I'm recommending modifications is, there's bank rate put out for realtors, things that you should do that can increase the value and things you shouldn't do because it could decrease the value. And so, yeah, there are things that can be done to your house, and the way it's made to look, it's like people moving into your home, like Casey was saying, even the younger folks, it just makes it a lot easier for them. So you can make it look really nice, and it'll add to the resale when that time comes that you need to relocate.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't there a term called like universal design now that really takes that into consideration, this idea of regardless of age, building a home that could be both handicap accessible, age-friendly accessible, and work for everyone that is, fully healthy and able-bodied, and also be aesthetically pleasing and increase the value of your home. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. Okay, so now we're going to welcome Lindsay. So Lindsay, if you can start by explaining the role of Reliance Community Health Partners and just a bit about what you do for the organization.
Sure, thanks, Laura. So I'm part of Reliance Community Care Partners. We're affiliated with Holland Home, which you're probably familiar with. We're under the same umbrella organization. So we've been around since 1979, and really our main goal is to help folks stay living at home as independently and for as long as possible. So we help adults with disabilities from 18 to 64 years of age, and then seniors. So there's those different that as well. And my role is I'm a community liaison. So I feel like I have such a fun job. I get to do things like this where I meet with the public and talk about our programs and meet with facilities and whatnot, just to provide any education or anything they need from just kind of like that point person to meet with folks.
Yep. So we've talked a ton in recent years about the importance of mental health, and one of the things I know that Reliance offers is a behavioral health clinic. So talk a little bit about that before we get into the other things that they do.
Yep, so in tandem with, the long-term care options, we have a behavioral health clinic, which is right across the street actually on Raybrook, if you're familiar with that. But we can help anyone 18 years of age and older, but really we have a specialty towards older adults. We have a geriatric psychiatrist and geriatric nurse practitioner on staff. And so what we can offer is kind of what you think of with the typical counseling, one-on-one talk therapy. But a lot of folks benefit from having medication in tandem with that as well. So that's the nice thing about having the geriatric psychiatrist and nurse practitioner on staff. If you need medication with the counseling, they can do it all in-house, which is really handy. One program I wanted to highlight that we offer, it's funded through the Kent County Senior Millage, and it really started after COVID, seeing how many folks were isolated and just struggling with mental health issues and loneliness and, even deaths in some circumstances. So this program, it's at a nominal service fee. You can receive counseling services either at the clinic, in your home. We can have a counselor come out to the home, or we offer an iPad as well. So if you prefer virtual, the counselor will come that first session, show you how to use the iPad. It's really simple. It's like you just push this button to start your service, and they can do that. And it's funded through the senior millage. So when you call to determine if it's a good fit, they'll ask some questions, but it would be no more than $10 a session, but for a lot of folks it can be free as well. So
That's awesome. Mental health is so important, and I think as we age, we just need to continue to get rid of the stigma of asking for help with anything that you're struggling with. So I know Reliance works alongside with many of the other community services to assist people on living independently, like you talked about. So what are some of the main programs and services that you're able to introduce people, and how do they qualify for those?
Sure. So one thing I forgot to highlight, because I feel like a lot of times folks are like, are you a home care agency or what are you? We're a case management agency. So our team consists of social workers and nurses that conduct an assessment of the programs someone might need, and then they help you find those services to actually provide that care. So the program, our three main programs, the first one is Kent County Seniors specifically. It's called our Care Management and Home Support Program, and that's minimal involvement. It would be 2 to 4 hours a week. Someone can come out and help with like cooking and cleaning, that sort of basic, but you're relatively independent otherwise. It's not like intensive nursing care. And the only requirements for that are a Kent County senior and 60 years of age or older. Our other programs, they're funded through the state. So if you qualify, they're free of charge, but you have to be on Medicaid and you have to have a nursing level facility of care. So that's far more intensive care. So the first one is Community Transitions Program, formerly called NIFTY. A lot of people have heard it referred to as. That's for people that are currently in a skilled nursing facility, but they want to go home, but they still need that intensive care. This program will partner you with what we call a transition navigator, and they're really your advocate. They help you get everything in place so you can thrive back at home. And then the other program is the My Choice Medicaid Waiver Program, and that is, again, someone who qualifies to be in a nursing home, but they'd rather be at home. They can receive those services in the comfort of their home.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about this idea of the Michigan Choice Waiver Program, because I know that that's kind of a complicated program. And, often we talk about senior communities, but I always want to make the distinction that most of the time when we're talking about senior communities and even ones that offer a little bit of care, it's drastically different than nursing homes. So nursing homes are really designed to be the last resort for those requiring a high level of care on a daily basis. So explain the bottom, kind of the basis of the Michigan Choice Waiver Program and how it really works to keep people in their home over time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like there's, like we were talking about earlier, most folks want to be at home. So if you're really in that moment of needing intense care, there's options where you can go home and still receive that care. And when we say home with this program, it can be like your personal home, it could be a relative's home, it can be an adult foster care facility, or even an assisted living we can provide these services in. But it is a complex program, I'm not going to sugarcoat that, but it is a really wonderful program, and we hear it all the time. As far as the mental health component, people that are in a nursing home a lot of times are like, God, I just feel limited, I'm in this sterile space, and I feel like I could thrive at home. And so it really is a wonderful program for those that qualify. And I lost my train of thought there. I was like, I want to skip ahead here.
What does it look like in terms of the care that you receive? Can you kind of talk a little bit more about that? Is it daily? Is it overnight? Any of those details?
It really varies, and so that's, and it can, you have to have that really intense level of care, and that again goes back to this nursing home facility level of care, and so and all of this, our intake team will help you navigate. That's something I wanted to touch on because it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. If you think you could qualify, just call the intake team. They're amazing and they can help you, determine that. But really, as far as the process goes, you would have a nurse and a social worker conduct an assessment, and they would let you know what those options are. So if you do need that, overnight or respite care, maybe you want to go to a day facility, This program, I have a whole list of what it could be, but it's amazing. I mean, it's all encompassing of what that could look like.
I know a lot of times when I'm sitting down with seniors or helping them with themselves or even their parents, you know, a lot of what we focus on is this idea of, do you need assistance with what they call ADLs, activities of daily living? And we talk about some of the basics of, you know, can you dress yourself? Can you shower by yourself? Can you go to the bathroom by yourself? Can you get yourself in and out of bed? And some of those things are really the specifics that as you're looking at the criteria for some of these places, those are going to be the questions, which feel kind of personal, they're pretty personal questions, but those are the types of things that they are going to be asking you. So it is pretty strict criteria for qualifying for this program, and it can be challenging to apply. So can you talk about some of the criteria that is out there, and then the best way to apply, and what the waiting period might look like? Because I know that's a thing as well, that there's generally a waiting period. And is this something that people should tackle on their own? Or do you recommend having the assistance of an elder law attorney, which often does this type of work?
Sure. So as far as qualifications, there's 4 main things to qualify for the waiver program. The first is age. So when we were talking earlier, adults with disabilities, that's 18 to 64 years of age, or older adults, 65 and older. Second is you must meet the nursing facility level of care that we were talking about, and that's what Laura was touching on. So when you call our intake team, it feels invasive, but they have to ask those questions right off the get-go as far as like, you know, how does this person transfer in and out of bed? Can they do that? Can they get on and off the toilet by themselves? You know, a lot of times people will call and they're like, this person's just old, but it's like they're not at that level where they really need the intense care. So, you know, just wanted to highlight that. There's a financial component as well. So they must meet the asset guidelines for Medicaid. And then the service need, like Laura was talking, you know, what could this look like as far as programs? It really depends on what the person needs, and there's a whole laundry list of what that could look like, and the person has to pick at least 2 of the options as far as like, do they need respite care? Do they need nursing services? And that's something that the case management team would help, you know, outline what that looks like. But as far as the process goes, you know, I talked to our intake team about that. I'm like, do you need an attorney to navigate this? And they were like, oftentimes, no. If it's a single person. When couples are involved, it can get a little more complicated, just with Medicaid and asset requirements and whatnot. But if it's for a single individual, a lot of times they can help you navigate that. Even applying for Medicaid, they're there to answer questions and, you know, help with that process as well. But as far as the process, you would just call our intake number, which I can let you know now, or I have brochures if that would be helpful.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, it's 616-954-1573. So you'll call that number. Our intake team is Marcy or Sarah. They're just wonderful. And they'll ask you those preliminary questions that we were talking about, the last financial questions. And if they think you could be a good fit, they'll put you in the system essentially. And then from there, the waiting, it is a long wait right now. So currently our waiting list is 6 months. So what that means is you call and then you probably won't receive another call for 6 months to conduct an in-person assessment. And from that, so that was, you know, kind of like we've been talking about all day, planning ahead. If you think someone could be, you know, going to where they need more intensive care, it's always best to call and talk through this ahead of time to get on the waiting list. But once, you know, we can provide the case managers to come out, then they'll come out and do an assessment. It's a nurse and a social worker, and it's far more intense questions. They'll see what you're capable of doing, and then from there, they'll provide the services and get everything arranged for you. So I think that was all that question.
Yeah. Now, how about, so certainly many of us work with seniors on a daily basis, and we see couples that have drastically different health statuses. So how does this work with couples if only one qualifies for nursing home care and the other one is really healthy?
This is where it gets complicated, and this is when I talk to Marcy and Sarah, they're like, this is when it's good to have an attorney involved, just to protect assets and really help guide you with that, because it is so case by case, honestly, what people truly need and whatnot. So if you are in that circumstance, honestly, I'd rely on the intake team, give them a call, and they can kind of get the general gist of your situation and then let you know if they're able to help or, reach out to an attorney to see what that might look like.
Yeah. Great. Our attorney with this series, Nancy Hillary, definitely does those type of evaluations and can assist you in just knowing the rules, because the rules can be really, really complicated, and often they have what's called look-back periods, so that when it comes to those assets, you also have to know in planning ahead, what are the look-back periods where these places are going to check, so that if you do have funds that would disqualify you, there's legitimate ways that those funds can be used, even to improve the house for the spouse that will continue to live in the house. So it is definitely worth your while to have guidance on that. So talk a little bit more about the nursing facility transition services. So for anybody that has been already in a nursing home, and would this count at all for anybody who is in more of a assisted living or strictly someplace that had to qualify as a nursing home?
Sure. So this program is the Community Transitions Program, and you have to be in a skilled nursing facility to qualify. So you can't be in an assisted living. It has to be that skilled nursing facility, and you have to be on Medicaid for this one as well. And this is the program where you're given the navigator, who's your advocate for all the things to help you thrive from, being in a facility to back home. They get everything in place, and they can help with things even as far as finding a home or making purchases to get your home ready to go. And they're amazing folks. I've done testimonials from people that have gone through this program, and it's like, how did it work for you? And they were like, I don't know if I would have been able to get home if it weren't for my navigator, because they're frustrated and they're overwhelmed, and they're like, where do you even begin? There's so many services, and where that's what the navigator's there for. They're there as your sounding board, and if things aren't going a certain way, they could be like, hey, I'm going to get involved and I'm going to help you out. So that's really the main intent of that program, and they'll help you get the services long-term you need at home. So a lot of times, folks that might be in a nursing facility, but they still need that intensive care, that's kind of where the waiver program might come into place. So they might go through our Community Transitions Program, but then they get home and then they need the long-term care. Another option you've probably heard about are PACE programs. That's another option for folks long-term, but the navigator can help set them up with that, where you would go to a facility and there's like day centers and all your doctors, medical staff are all within one building, which is really cool too. So,
What is actually the difference between PACE?
yeah,
That gets a little confusing as well.
totally. My understanding really between like the waiver program and PACE, they're similar. They provide similar types of services. One of the main differences is with waiver, you can have your own doctor and medical team that you've worked with historically, where with the PACE program, you really have to just be a part of all that they offer within the building. And they're amazing buildings. You go in and it's a day center, and then you go to the doctor, and you probably know offhand too, I'm trying to think of therapy, but you don't have the choice of who those folks, it's just whoever's, within that PACE program.
Great. And I'm sure you can see how all of these people on stage would, basically all these programs work together in a lot of different ways to assist you in
prevention and even coming home from a nursing home and assessing your house and then adapting your house as needed, whether it's beforehand to be preventive or even afterwards before someone comes home. So there really is a wealth of different resources that are out there. The key is to just know about those resources. Any questions for these guys?
I have a question any of you could probably answer. I was thinking of Dave first, but if there are some changes you need to prevent things and you live in like I live in a mobile home community, so I rent my lot and there are people in apartments, is there any problem working with the owners that you've come across and in modifications?
No, actually, I live in a mobile home park. I sold my home 2 years ago, and now I live in a mobile home park, and I see ramps virtually all over. So, no, there's no issue with adapting your home to that. I just would have to believe that, you know, you need to get permission, or you need to let the park management know you're putting that in. But other than that, that's it. What park do I live in? Would be the same thing. You could also do a modification for apartments.
I have a question for Dave and Casey. Are your services available just in Grand Rapids area or outside of that?
I'm outside. I go as far north as Reed City. I do an hour away. So Reed City, Alma, Lansing, Battle Creek, Kalamazoo, South Haven. Yeah.
So for my evaluations, I go all over the state. I've even gone up to the UP for stuff. But in terms of projects and like the construction, we have a 60-mile radius just because it's too hard to get our subcontractors to also travel.
You know, if I could add something here. The fee for my home safety evaluation for a complete one is $390. But for the next year, from January 1st through December 31st of 2025, if you mention, or whomever you refer to me mention that you heard it at this event, I will take $50 off. So it isn't a $50 reduction in the service. No, it's $50 off, but I'm still doing the same thing.
That ounce of prevention. All right, well, I think we're done. Any other questions? All right, well, before I do the drawings, we're going to do I'm going to have Tom Carabalese up here for just a moment from Assisted Living Locators, and he's just going to take a couple minutes to expand a little bit about what he does, in addition to handling all my slides and my sound. So just a quick round of applause for that, because I can't do that.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. I'm humbled to be in this group, but I think the key word, the P word, the proactivity, is why things like this learning series exist. As a senior living advisor, my key job, the name of my company is Assisted Living Locators, and I talk to people here and they go, it's like the Grim Reaper, oh no, don't come yet, we're not ready for assisted living. Not my goal, okay? Senior living advisors like myself, our goal, like this forum, is to educate and prepare. We want individuals to be able to make the most informed decisions, so they are without regret. Now, the folks to my left here, the circumstances, it's complicated at times and dynamic and ever-changing. Many of the communities that I might suggest, they're ever-changing. Their ownership is changing. Their staff and management is changing. They're a moving target that I, like a weatherman, keep an eye on and can forecast for you. Okay? Now, you could go outside and see if it's raining. Fine. Or you can speak to a senior living advisor who will come and like the folks at Reliance and these others, will assess who and what your needs are at this time, and then we'll make recommendations that will shorten and make it more efficient and have better outcomes. We're all about outcomes. And with that, I say thank you very much for these few minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, and like we've talked about so often, there is such a big difference. I mean, all of you are smart and could go on the internet to Google, different care options, different this, different realtors in Kent County, whatnot. It is night and day between doing that yourself and having a resource that not only gives you the information, but walks alongside you and any of your family members that want to be involved in these very, very complex manners. And that's really the goal of myself and everybody affiliated with this series, is that we are, not just advisors, we're truly partners that have your best interests in mind. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what's important. It's not just a business transaction. It's helping people live better lives. And I feel that everybody that's involved with this truly has that goal in mind.